In the last part of the series, part 66, we discussed the Knights Templar. We went through centuries of events, from the Muslims' jihad against the Byzantine Empire, to Pope Urban calling for the Crusade in Jerusalem, to the beginning and end of the Knights Templar. We discussed how they are a great introduction into secret societies. Secret societies are a big topic for most people who are awake from the Matrix. Once we awaken from our slumber, our deception, now being able to see the unseen hand creating their new world order, we understand that we must be aware of the influence the secret societies have had on our modern world for centuries. Like I said in part 66, you really cannot understand the full scope of the plans of what many call the Illuminati. You can't know the full scope of their plans until you go back and understand how we got to where we are today. When we do that, we even stop referring to them as the Illuminati, because we realize it's much deeper than that. The Illuminati is just a word that is used to control and mask the truth today. Anyways, secret societies have been working behind the scenes in creating their utopian world where Satan is worshipped as God by all, not by force, but willingly accepted. But there are so many levels of deception attached to this scheme. When we understand the beliefs of these secret societies, and we understand the history behind many organizations and events, we can oftentimes see through the smoke and mirrors that are presented. The world is distracted through trade wars and purposely provoked confrontations by Donald Trump. But all the while, the secret societies, those at the top, are carrying through with their mission that they have passed down their family lines for centuries. And while the masses, the sheeple, are being taken advantage of by the deliberate distractions the elite have created, they are being manipulated into accepting this new age, this new world order, this new era of worship of Lucifer. Listen, we all have two choices. Believe in the Savior that was sent by Yahweh, a better pronunciation of Yahweh. Believe in his son Yahshua and be redeemed by his blood, or be brought into this new age of worship of Lucifer, which will be believed through the worship of his son, which we know as the Antichrist. We only have two choices. This series has presented you with a full understanding of the gospel, why we should believe in Yahshua and remove the ways and traditions of the world from our ways of worship and reverence of him. And we are now embarking on the lie of Satan, so that when you hear it, you can properly identify it and not be deceived. What we have been taught is to just keep our eyes on Jesus and ignore the devil. That's been the strategy I've heard from church since I was a child. And on the surface, that strategy makes sense. On the surface. What we are not told is that through history, the devil has intertwined himself within the church, using many of the same names, same terms, same stories, and has brought his deception and confusion. And where we are today is that many that think they are keeping their eyes on Jesus are actually keeping their eyes on Satan and his deceptions. The truth of that becomes quite clear when we remove the traditions and ideas that we get from the world that don't align with the scriptures, and we then seek to worship the Father in spirit and in truth as he desires. We then realize that Satan has been guiding this world into worship of him, and we must be stricter in our faith and adherence to Elohim's words. But at the same time, we must understand the schemes and strategies of the enemy so that we are not deceived and taken advantage of by him. In 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11, the Apostle Paul says, "Lest Satan should take advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices." You see, he was not ignorant of Satan's devices, so Satan was not able to take advantage of him. Today, the church is completely ignorant to Satan's devices, and it's completely understandable why he has taken advantage of the church in so many ways. This subject today will reduce your ignorance to Satan's schemes and devices, and therefore reduce the chances of Satan taking advantage of you. So let's get to it. Let's begin. So in the last part, we discussed the Knights Templar. I said that the Knights Templar were known as the guardians of the Holy Grail, but I never really got into what the Holy Grail is. In that video, I also said that there were other secret societies that existed before the Templars. In order to discuss the Holy Grail, I will go back before the Templars and introduce you to the Priory of Sion. Again, I am drawing a lot of this history and research from the book Holy Blood, Holy Grail. This book is not an easy read, and it should only be read if you are solidified in the truth and your faith is planted firmly in Yahshua. The researchers and writers of this book are not on Yahshua's side. Now, the Priory of Sion predates the Knights Templar. They are actually said to have been the creators of the Knights Templar. I will not go very far in depth about them, but I will give you some points to understand. Like I just said, they were a secret order behind the Knights Templar. They created the Templars as their military and administrative arm. Basically, the Templars were the outside face of their organization. The masses knew of the Templars, but in secret, the Templars were led and organized by the Priory of Sion, which the masses knew very little about. They functioned under a variety of different names, but they are most frequently known as the Priory of Sion. There have been a lot of people that have requested that I speak on the Jesuits, mostly, I believe, because of the strong research from the Seventh-day Adventist Walter Veith, which was very strong. But for my research, the Priory goes much further back, and actually the Jesuits are just an offshoot branch of the Priory. Now, the Priory was directed by a sequence of Grand Masters, whose names are among many of the known names in Western history and culture. I'm sure you have heard of Leonardo da Vinci and Isaac Newton. Our history books will tell us the information that they would like us to know, but there's often a backstory in the shadows of the many characters that history likes to promote. It makes you wonder what is hidden deeper into Leonardo's artwork that the world today upholds as sacred, and what occult influences led Isaac Newton in his studies of physics. These men were underground Satanists guarding a very deep secret, and they were not just members, but Grand Masters, which meant that they were leaders of the order at their respective times.
The Priory of Sion is a myth, one of the world's oldest and most secret societies, with leaders like Sir Isaac Newton, Da Vinci himself. The fleur-de-lis is their crest. They're guardians of the secret they supposedly refer to as the Dark Con of Man.
But what secret?
The Priory of Sion protects the source of God's power on Earth.
Now, although the Knights Templar were destroyed and dissolved between 1307 and 1314, the Priory of Sion remained intact and undamaged. It continued to function throughout the centuries, acting in the shadows, behind the scenes. It has orchestrated certain critical events in Western history. They are a major finger of the unseen hand. They still exist today. They are very influential and play a role in high-level international affairs, as well as in the domestic affairs of certain European countries. The declared objective of the Priory of Sion is the restoration of the Merovingian dynasty and bloodline, not restoring them only to the throne of France as it once was, but to the throne of the world. To say it very simply, they desire to have their leader be leader and ruler of all, to become the man that believers in the Bible know to be the Antichrist. This is their leader that they want to see rule the world. Have you heard of the Merovingian dynasty or Merovingian? I tell you what, I never did until I watched The Matrix Part 2 and 3. That movie has so many codes in it.
Yes, we are here to speak with the Merovingian.
Of course. He has been expecting you.
If you remember, the Merovingian was one of the oldest programs since the beginning of The Matrix. He was very powerful and had a lot of control. The true Merovingian dynasty was thought to be done away with in the 8th century, but it did not become extinct. By alliances and intermarriages, this line came to include important families of the Middle Ages. But I guess the question is, what is so important about them and why should you care? All of this alludes to the Holy Grail, so we're going to discuss it. When I think of lies and deception, I think this blasphemy is at the top of the list in terms of the worst. Then of course after that comes the blasphemy of the Revelation 2:9 and 3:9. But this lie is a main staple in regard to the coming Antichrist. The Holy Grail is something that secret societies have been programming into us during this current generation. I remember my first understanding of it came when I was a kid, and the blasphemous movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came out. When I was a kid, I loved that movie. I, of course, did not realize and know it was pure blasphemy, And of course my parents didn't either. But in my understanding today, it's very plain as day. Indiana Jones, the archaeologist who found the Ark of the Covenant in his first movie, was now on a grail quest that his dad was obsessed with all his life. In the movie,
That's the cup of a carpenter.
the Holy Grail was the cup that Jesus drank out of during the Last Supper, and whoever drank from the cup would have everlasting life. It wasn't that Jesus gave everlasting life, it was this cup. And this cup, which was the Holy Grail, was being guarded by an old knight of the Knights Templar. I could devote a video to the pure blasphemy of that movie, but my point is that this was the first time I remember the Holy Grail being introduced to me, and since then, the idea always sat in my subconscious. How many times do people refer to some lost treasure or possession as the Holy Grail of things? This subject is later broken down further in a book and movie through Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code. Again, Dan Brown creates his story from the research and conclusions drawn in the book I have referred to, Holy Blood, Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is a major part of the devil's lie. It's a major reason why the Israeli Jews will co-sign the Antichrist as their Messiah that they say was foretold of. And it's a major reason why Satanists, occultists, New Agers, Muslims, and all other major faiths will believe that the Antichrist is worthy of their worship. So when people say that Barack Obama is the Antichrist, or the Pope is the Antichrist, I understand why they would make these claims. But it's just that they are leaving out a strong bit of information that is crucial. The Holy Grail is a major part of the devil's story and lie. Let's review it to gain more understanding. Now, you may say that the Bible doesn't say anything about a Holy Grail, so this is not important to me. But you would be mistaken. To give you a proper understanding of the Holy Grail, we are going to start first directly in the Bible. We must go back to the Garden of Eden, where Yahweh gives his first prophecy. It's found in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. It's what he said to the serpent. He said, "And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." This is a prophecy about Yahshua defeating Satan. But what I want to focus on is the first part of the prophecy. Yahweh said, he will put enmity between the serpent's seed and Eve's seed. Do you see that? Do you see that Satan has a seed? And Satan's seed will have enmity between it and Eve's seed, which will go down the line to Noah, then to Abraham, to Jacob/Israel, then to David, lastly to Yahshua. But there is a conflict between Satan's seed and Eve's seed. Enmity is the state or feeling of being actively opposed or hostile to someone or something. This is the main conflict of the scriptures, but it also alludes to this major topic, the Holy Grail. Like I said in the beginning of this video, we have been taught to keep our eyes on Jesus and ignore the devil. But the devil has his own seed that is in conflict with our belief, and if we ignore him, we will know nothing about this. James chapter 4 verse 7 says, "Resist the devil and he will flee from you." It does not say, ignore the devil. This all brings us to the Holy Grail. It's important to understand that when you are alive, living through prophetic times, things that are labeled one way in the Bible and prophecy are not presented to the public by that name. Let me use an example. When considering the mark of the beast, it won't be marketed to the public as the mark of the beast. You will not hear the governments and mass media outlets refer to it as, "Hey, take the mark of the beast." Like in order to buy and sell, you will need to take the mark of the beast. They will never say that. It doesn't happen this way. It's marketed to the world as a benefit, as something good.
Brain implant technology that they just put this chip, I guess, into your skull. And then you just, I don't know what good it does, but it's there. And then
Like, in order to buy your food and work for a living, you must take this microchip that will keep your identity and privacy secure while giving you access to this new financial system. There's not going to be a media campaign calling it the mark of the beast. Only a media campaign talking about the benefits and why it's a great thing. Only those that know and understand Bible prophecy will truly know what the mark of the beast is, and then will understand that that chip that they are promoting really is the mark of the beast. I use that example to say that Satan's seed is not going to be marketed as the Antichrist. He's going to be marketed as maybe Jesus Christ or some type of savior to the world. And all the loose ends will be tied and brought together, primarily with his blood, which is an important one. Those that worship Satan know that his bloodline is extremely important, and those that are part of the other major world religions have bloodline attached to their view as well. You see, the Jews just can't call Pope Francis their true Messiah because he has brought some major change. Their Messiah must come from the line of David, and that's where the Holy Grail comes in. So what is the Holy Grail? Let me tell you what it's not first. It's not a cup that Yahshua drank out of during the Last Supper, and it's not the cup that Joseph of Arimathea caught Yahshua's blood with as he was crucified. These explanations were used as a way to mask the truth. The Grail does, however, relate to blood, or more specifically, a bloodline, a lineage. In many earlier transcripts, the Grail is called Sangreal or Sangreal. Broken up, it's Sang-Real, or in modern spelling, Sang-Royal, or royal blood. The Holy Grail, the royal blood, actually referred to the royal blood of the Merovingian dynasty, a bloodline that was deemed to be sacred and invested with magical or miraculous properties. It was this royal blood that the Templars, who were created by the Priory of Sion, were appointed guardians. And we see that to be true when we see the Merovingian heads when they wore the crown of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. They were protected by the Templars and the Priory. It's a protected bloodline. But the blasphemy really comes in how they tell the story of promoting this bloodline. They claim this blood to be from Jesus. The blasphemy is that Jesus was actually married to Mary Magdalene and she bore his child. Blasphemous. It is then claimed that Mary later was smuggled to Gaul, where established Jewish communities already existed, and they took her to France, where she had the baby, making her bloodline supreme Sang-Real, royal blood, and then it kept itself intact and incognito for some 400 years. There were intermarriages with other family bloodlines, along with Romans, Khazarians, and Visigoths as well. And by the 5th century, the claim is that Jesus' bloodline became allied with the royal line of the Franks, creating the Merovingian dynasty. This is where we see the king Merovee, king of the Franks in 448, and then King Clovis I in 456, who the Roman Catholic Church made a pact with. It's a sacred bloodline that was preserved and guarded by secret societies like the Priory. The Holy Grail is the carrier of this bloodline. It is the receptacle or vessel that received and contained Jesus' blood. In other words, it would have been the womb of Mary Magdalene. That's what they try to say. This is why, in the early Christian era, the Black Virgins, or Black Madonnas, were not shrines and representations of the Virgin Mary, but they were shrines to Mary Magdalene, as they depict a mother and child. It's also been argued that the Gothic cathedrals, those majestic stone replicas of the womb, defecated to Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame is French for Our Lady, and is said to reference the Blessed Virgin Mother Mary. Look at all those Gothic cathedrals in France and Europe. Many of them have been attributed to Our Lady, our Blessed Mother. Look, either way, it's not reference to Virgin Mary, but is in fact reference to Mary Magdalene. The Holy Grail symbolizes both Jesus' bloodline and Mary Magdalene, also known as the Magdalene, from whose womb the bloodline was created with. This is the blasphemous story they tell when they are promoting this coming Antichrist. And it is this bloodline that has been raised and protected through the centuries that the world is being prepared for. This is a satanic bloodline, Satan's seed that is in conflict with Yahshua and will go against him in the battle of Armageddon. The thing is, we know of the Antichrist, we know of the one world religion, but we just don't know much about how it all will go down. But it's this Holy Grail that is being presented to us. We are constantly being programmed to accept this, Think of Lord of the Rings with Aragorn reuniting the world because of his special bloodline, or Star Wars with the prophecy of Skywalker, or even what they alluded to with Jon Snow in the Game of Thrones, or movies about King Arthur. That's a big one. It's all the same storyline, because they are programming us to receive this one with royal blood. This is the Holy Grail, and above all the other secrets that we will see as we begin to learn about the secret societies, this is a major point to understand. If you don't understand this, you won't understand the Antichrist and how they are preparing the world. The devil has his own plans and has been working in darkness for centuries. The secret societies are all part of the secret, and people like Leonardo da Vinci and Isaac Newton were grand masters, main holders and protectors of this secret. So when you see the Mona Lisa and understand Da Vinci, it's not just a woman, it's not the Virgin Mary, it's Mary Magdalene. If you watch the Da Vinci Code, you see what blasphemous codes he placed in his portrait of the Last Supper.
Now, my dear, the word in French for Holy Grail.
Le Saint Graal.
From the Middle English, Sangreal, of the original Arthurian legend. Now, as two words. Translate for our friend.
Saint Real, it means royal blood.
When the legend speaks of the chalice that held the blood of Christ, it speaks in fact of the female womb that carried Jesus' royal bloodline. Witness the greatest cover-up in human history. This is the secret the Priory of Sion has defended for over 20 centuries. They are the guardians of the royal bloodline. Keepers of the proof of our true past. They are the protectors of the living descendants of Jesus Christ. And Mary Magdalene.
Understand that these were big secrets that have been passed down and that have been guardians of these secrets. And we are now at the climax of these generational secrets and bloodline conspiracies. Now, what can you do with this information? Not much. There is no whistleblowing. They are all set up. They are waiting for the right crisis to begin. We will not change any of this because this is all destined to happen. It was foretold not by Satan, but by the Most High. So all we can do is make sure we are not deceived. Make sure we are not being taken advantage of. We should be aware of their plots and schemes and not let ourselves get taken advantage of by them. The Holy Grail is a big part of the history of religion. And the subtext of it is why there is so much confusion today and why so many people challenge our belief in Yahshua through the Holy Scriptures. The Holy Grail is much of what we see today. The only thing you can do is keep your heart and mind pure and not be devoured by the enemy. Use this knowledge to defend yourself against the lies. When you see churches like St. Mary Magdalene Church or shrines dedicated to Mary Magdalene, you know that it's about the lie of the Antichrist. The most important thing you can do is stay in the word of Elohim. Read your Bibles and grow stronger in the truth. Grow your relationship with him and remove the wrong influences from your life. Continue to grow in faith and place your trust in Yahshua. Focus on relationship, not religion. Understand that the closer this lie comes, the closer our Savior is as well. Continue to prepare yourself and your family for him and help bring as many with you as you can. You're fighting the lie by knowing what it is and knowing what the truth is. Continue to live in truth and rebuke the lies. Be blessed. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please make sure to like this and share it. If you have not already done so, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. Elohim willing, I upload every Friday. Don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram. As always, I want to thank all those who donate to this channel. Your donations are a sincere blessing to me. Thank you for the help with this ministry. I am extremely appreciative for your love, offerings, and support. Okay, everyone. Thanks again for watching. I love you all.